In a world built by men, these women ruled through the bedroom. Welcome to Empire of Desires. Forget the pumpkin carriage, forget the fairy godmother and the mice that sewed dresses. What if I told you that the most famous fairy tale in human history, Cinderella, is actually based on the life of a woman who lived 2,500 years ago in ancient Egypt? But here's the part Disney didn't tell you. She wasn't an innocent girl living with an evil stepmother. She was a woman of the night, a Greek slave who survived kidnapping, exploitation, and a massive international scandal to become the Queen of the Nile. Today, we are uncovering the raw, unfiltered, and breathtaking true story of Rhodopis. This is a journey from the slave markets of the Mediterranean to the golden throne of the pharaohs. Prepare yourself, because the real history is far more fascinating than any cartoon. Our story starts in the 6th century BC. Our heroine wasn't born in Egypt, she was born in northern Greece, and her birth name was Dorica. Her childhood was shattered when pirates raided her village. In those times, the Mediterranean was a dangerous place where human life was a commodity. Dorica was snatched from her home, thrown into the dark hull of a galley, and transported hundreds of miles away to the island of Samos. It was here that she was sold to her first master, Iadmon. It was also here that she met one of the most famous figures in literary history, Aesop. Yes, the same Aesop who wrote the world-famous fables. Imagine the scene: a young, terrified Greek girl and a wise, hunchbacked storyteller, both in chains. Historians tell us they spent hours together in the shadows of their master's estate. Aesop would tell her stories of lions, foxes, and the irony of fate to help her endure the misery of slavery. It was perhaps from Aesop that she learned the power of storytelling and the importance of using one's wit to survive a cruel world. Because of her extraordinary beauty, specifically her pale skin and her strikingly rosy cheeks, she was given the name Rhodopis, which in Greek means the rosy-cheeked one. This was not just a nickname, it was a brand. Her master saw that she was too beautiful for the fields or domestic labor. He decided to invest in her as a Hetaira. Now, let's be clear, a Hetaira was not just a common woman of the streets. They were the influencers and intellectuals of the ancient world. Rhodopis was trained for years in the arts. She learned to play the lyre, she studied philosophy, she mastered the art of political debate, and she was trained in the most sophisticated forms of dance. She was being prepared for the elite of society. Eventually, she was taken to Naucratis in Egypt. In the 6th century BC, Naucratis was the only Greek port allowed in Egypt, a bustling, wealthy, and chaotic melting pot of cultures. It was the New York City of the ancient world. Here, Rhodopis was set up in a lavish house, and she quickly became the most desired woman in the Mediterranean. Men didn't just pay for her beauty, they paid for her mind and her presence. Among her many wealthy clients was a man named Charaxus. He was a wealthy wine merchant and, more importantly, the brother of Sappho, the most famous female poet of ancient Greece. Charaxus became so obsessively in love with Rhodopis that he did the unthinkable. He spent an absolute fortune, his entire family's wealth, to buy her freedom. This created a massive international scandal. When Sappho heard that her brother had bankrupted a family for a woman of ill repute, she was humiliated. She wrote scathing, bitter poems mocking her brother and attacking Rhodopis. These poems actually survived through history, giving us historical proof of Rhodopis's existence. But Rhodopis didn't care about the gossip. For the first time in her life, she was free. She stayed in Naucratis and became an independent free agent, accumulating so much wealth that she eventually commissioned a massive monument in Delphi, 10 giant iron spits for roasting oxen, which stood for centuries as a testament to her success and her survival.
The true fairy tale moment finally happened on a hot Egyptian afternoon, but it was far more mystical than a fairy godmother's spell. Rhodopis was bathing in the waters of the Nile. Her servants were guarding her silk robes and her most prized possession, a pair of gilded, rose-colored leather sandals, intricately decorated with gold thread. Suddenly, a massive eagle, the sacred symbol of the god Horus, descended from the clouds. In a flash, it snatched one of the sandals and soared into the sky. Rhodopis watched in shock as her shoe disappeared over the horizon. The eagle flew for miles, crossing the desert until it reached the great city of Memphis. At that very moment, Pharaoh Amasis II was sitting on his outdoor throne, presiding over a public trial. The eagle circled the pharaoh and dropped the tiny, elegant sandal directly into his lap. To the Egyptians, this wasn't an accident. It was a divine message from Horus himself. The pharaoh looked at the sandal, so small, so delicate, and clearly belonging to a woman of immense grace. He became obsessed. He halted all legal proceedings and declared, "The woman whose foot fits this sandal has been chosen by the gods to be my queen. Find her immediately." The pharaoh's messengers were sent to every corner of the empire. They went to the palaces of the nobility and the villas of the rich, trying the shoe on thousands of women. But the sandal was unique. It was made for the small, delicate foot of a Greek woman, not the typical Egyptian build. Eventually, the search party reached the port of Naucratis. They found Rhodopis in her garden. When the official knelt down and slipped the golden sandal onto her foot, it fit perfectly. To the astonishment of the soldiers, she calmly reached into a wooden chest and pulled out the second sandal to prove her identity. Rhodopis was taken to the palace in Memphis. When Amasis II met her, he didn't see a bad woman or a former slave. He saw a woman who was his intellectual equal, someone who knew politics, art, and philosophy. He married her in a ceremony of incredible splendor. The girl who was once sold like cattle was now the queen of the two lands, wearing the crown of Egypt. Rhodopis's influence was so vast that a legend began to spread throughout the ancient world. People believed she was the one who funded and built the Pyramid of Menkaure, the third of the Great Pyramids of Giza. While historians like Herodotus later argued that the timelines didn't match, the very fact that the Egyptians believed a former slave girl was rich and powerful enough to build a pyramid shows just how much of a titan she became. Over the next 2,000 years, her story was retold by geographers like Strabo and eventually transformed into the Cinderella story we know today. But the original version is far more empowering. The real Cinderella didn't wait for a miracle. She used her education, her resilience, and her sheer will to survive to climb from the bottom of society to the very top. Rhodopis proved that beauty might open a door, but intelligence and character are what keep you on the throne. So the next time you see a glass slipper, remember the golden sandal of the Nile. Remember the woman who was too bold to be forgotten and too smart to be silenced. What do you think? Is the historical Rhodopis a better role model than the Disney Cinderella? Why did the world feel the need to hide her true profession and turn her into a helpless girl? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of the ancient world.